I regret to express my apologies for having an unattractive wife." These harsh and shocking words unexpectedly erupted from my mother-in-law, who abruptly seized the microphone from my father-in-law during our wedding ceremony. She proclaimed her intention to discipline me to transform me into a better wife, creating an uncomfortable satisfaction in her tone. This statement sharply contrasted with the stunned silence that enveloped the venue. I stood there, utterly bewildered, and turned to look at my husband, only to find him smirking in a disconcerting manner. As my mind reeled in surprise and shock, my body began to tremble. Amid the chilling atmosphere, an older gentleman purposefully made a loud noise as he rose from his seat. "Is that all you wanted to say?" he asked, capturing everyone's attention. With confidence, he walked toward me, prompting my husband's eyes to widen in surprise. Disregarding his reaction, the man took my arm and said, "Let's get out of here." Before I could utter a word, he led me out of the reception hall, dragging the dress I never wanted along the hotel corridor. A flood of thoughts began to fill my mind. I am Evelyn, a 30-year-old woman who grew up in a single-parent household after my parents divorced during my elementary school years. In my 25s, my mother fell ill, and I took on the responsibility of caring for her. Still single in my 40s, I encountered a man named Thomas. Despite knowing about my caregiving responsibilities for my mother, he proposed to me after visiting my office, where I assisted him at the reception desk. Thomas was an exceptional person, and I considered that I might not get another chance for marriage if I let this opportunity pass. However, leaving my mother alone posed a significant dilemma for me. As our relationship extended over a year, my internal struggle intensified. Thomas, understanding my concerns, alleviated my worries by suggesting that we could become a family of 3, acknowledging the importance of my relationship with my mother. Touched by his thoughtful proposal, I decided to marry him. When we announced our marriage to both sets of parents, the journey of building our family began. My mother was thrilled, but my future mother-in-law, whom we'll call Ruth, had an entirely different reaction. "I'll be upfront. I don't consider a woman from a single-parent family a suitable wife," she sharply declared when Thomas and I visited his house to introduce ourselves as a couple for the first time. From then on, every meeting for wedding preparations was met with her responding to everything I said with sarcasm. "She's just an old hag past her prime, and she's got a mother to take care of, my poor son," she would mock. I could tolerate her insulting me, but I asked her not to speak ill of my mother, emphasizing that it was Thomas who wanted to be a part of our family. "I bet you used some sly tricks to seduce my son," she accused. Denying such claims, I retorted, "Well, your assumptions about my mother's past are baseless. Every time..." I attempted to stand up for myself, but Ruth's retaliation was 5 times harsher. Contemplating discussing it with Thomas, I hesitated, not wanting to burden him with unnecessary worries on the brink of our married life. Emboldened, my mother-in-law extended her interference to the wedding plans, even showing up on the day we were selecting the wedding dress with my husband. "I'll choose the best wedding dress for you," she declared. "Mom has a great sense of style. She'll definitely pick a good dress. If you're happy about it, aren't you?" my husband added. While appreciating their intentions, I insisted. "I want to choose a dress that I personally like." However, my mother-in-law responded with disappointment, saying, "But I came all this way for you. I'm so disappointed. Hey, don't make Mom cry." My husband snapped at me, always quick to side with his mother, especially when she played the victim. However, I couldn't give in when it came to the wedding dress, arguably one of the highlights of the wedding. "I'm really sorry, but I'll be choosing my own dress. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event, and I want to be completely satisfied with it," I stated firmly. Upon hearing my determination, my mother-in-law reluctantly backed off, but she held a grudge about it. On the morning of the wedding day, she did something unthinkable. "What an awful dress. The veil's tasteless, too. You'd look better wearing a garbage bag with a supermarket sale flyer on your head," she exclaimed upon seeing my wedding dress displayed in the dressing room of the hotel where the ceremony was held. I was really upset, but I wanted to avoid any trouble on my big day, so I tried to respond calmly. "My mom, who loves sewing, made the veil herself. We chose the dress together." "I appreciate it," I responded. "You're going to wear something chosen by a woman who cheated and got dumped by her man," my mother-in-law declared. Suddenly her eyes widened, and she raised her voice, appearing furious. Then she splashed canned coffee from her purse all over my dress. "Stop it! What are you doing?" I exclaimed, watching in horror as my dress quickly turned brown. Desperately, I grabbed a nearby towel to wipe the dress, but it was too late. The dress was in no condition to be worn. "This is what happens when you don't listen to me. I've left a dress I chose with the ceremony staff. You're wearing that for the wedding, okay?" she stated before leaving the dressing room. She must have brought the canned coffee intending to ruin my dress from the beginning. Since she had, I then proceeded to the separate waiting room where my husband was, and tearfully recounted the recent incident, expressing my frustration about how unfair it was. "This is going to ruin the wedding. What do you want me to do about it?" he retorted. "It's what your mother did." I've been silent until now, but there were other times. "Enough already. You're annoying." He interrupted me, shouting in anger, his expression mirroring my mother-in-law's when she spilled coffee on my dress. I was taken aback by his sudden change in attitude, but he quickly seemed to snap back to reality and apologized. "Oh, I'm sorry. I just can't deal with this right now." My husband was sweating profusely and appeared extremely tense. Feeling sorry for barging in and understanding the stress of the situation, I decided to give him some space. I opted to compose myself and attentively listen to him. "You seem pretty stressed out. What's going on?" I inquired. "Actually, the CEO of my company is suddenly attending our wedding. It seems that, by chance, the CEO, who happened to be at the hotel for work, met Thomas's boss. After hearing about our wedding today, he prepared a gift. Furthermore, since one of Thomas's colleagues couldn't attend due to a sudden illness and there was an empty seat, they invited the CEO to participate as well. What a coincidence. Showing off your skills here might lead to a promotion. You don't have time to worry about your dress. Just do as my mother says," he advised. I didn't appreciate the way he put it, but it seemed useless to argue with my absent-minded husband, so I decided to leave the scene. Then, the wedding began. The ceremony at the church on the hotel's rooftop went off without a hitch, and I breathed a sigh of relief until the family speeches at the reception. My mother-in-law went all out, stating, "Raised in a single-parent household, she lacks common sense and is an ugly bride, but I'll make sure to discipline her." Ignoring my father-in-law's attempt to stop her, my mother-in-law held the microphone tight and declared this loudly. Just as I was about to explode with anger, a middle-aged man stood up with vigor and came over to me. "You don't belong in a place like this," the man said, staring at my mother-in-law, and then he started to lead me away. "Who is that old man interrupting my speech? What nerve does he have?" my mother-in-law shrieked as she looked at the man leading me away. However, next to her, Thomas was turning pale. "Why is the CEO here?" It turned out that the middle-aged man was the CEO of Thomas's company. Sweating profusely from his forehead, Thomas seemed extremely flustered. We hurriedly left the reception hall and returned to the dressing room, leaving the flustered men behind. Why is my father here? That's right. The CEO of Thomas's company was also my biological father. The reason for my parents' divorce was a personality mismatch. They fought constantly while both working and decided to divorce because they thought it was affecting me negatively. Therefore, even after the divorce, my parents occasionally met. I saw my father several times a month and received proper child support until I became an adult. Even after my mother needed care, he helped out in various ways, so our relationship was very good. However, I hadn't asked much about my father's job. I can't believe my father is the CEO of Thomas's company. Even I was surprised by this coincidence. Why are you here when you said you had an important business meeting and couldn't attend my wedding? My business meeting ended much earlier than expected. I thought to come here to give you the gift at least. Then, I met one of the employees at the entrance. It seems that my father was the boss Thomas was talking about. He found out it was my wedding when he asked for the names of the bride and groom to prepare the gift for us. When I told the employee about the situation, I heard there was a last-minute cancellation and the seat was available, so I decided to participate. Why didn't you tell me then? After consulting with your mother, we decided to make it a surprise. I never imagined it would turn out like this. My father looked somewhat sad inside. Just as I was about to talk to my father, the door of the dressing room opened. Evelyn, you can't just run off like that. My mother-in-law, who had arrived, was speaking in a fake sweet voice I had never heard before. I got goosebumps from how creepy it was. She must have heard from her husband that my father was the CEO. Who do you think caused all of this? That was just a little joke. How dare you make such a vulgar joke at my daughter's big moments? That's even more unforgivable. What? No, it wasn't a joke. Then huh? So you're saying you seriously called my daughter ugly? Challenged by my father, my mother-in-law was lost for words, repeating, and, well. Her eyes darted back and forth. Suddenly my husband rushed in, his footsteps echoing, and he prostrated himself before my father. I apologize for the rudeness of my mother. You're apologizing to the wrong person, my father said, looking down at my husband with a cold gaze and a stern voice. Angelo, I'm sorry. My mom did all this on her own. If that's the case, why didn't you stop your mother when she was insulting me? I was shocked and couldn't move. Besides, my dad tried to stop her, but it sure seemed like you were grinning and sitting pretty comfortably. That's just your imagination. Anyway, the only one to blame for everything is my mom, my husband shouted, pointing accusingly at his mother. Stephen, are you betraying your mama? Didn't we agree to discipline this cheeky wife together? Hey, don't say unnecessary things. You said we should use this wife who won't let mama choose her dress like a rag and make her understand her place. Shut up. My husband covered his mother's mouth to stop her from speaking further. Her muffled voice was truly comical. So, would you like to explain what's really going on? No, this is something my mother did on her own. It's for your own good, to be honest. Right now, don't you think? Upon my father started questioning, my husband shuddered and finally began to speak. When Evelyn insisted on choosing her wedding dress, my mother said she would become a cheeky wife if not properly disciplined. What's wrong with choosing my own dress? It's only natural that a wife listens to her mother-in-law, isn't it? If you can't even do that, I thought you'd become a bad wife who wouldn't listen to her husband in the future. First of all, a married couple should be equals, right? There's no hierarchy if I can't make you listen to me. There's no point in marrying a woman on the verge of becoming an old hag. The truth finally slipped out of my husband's mouth. He had decided to marry me, not because he loved me for who I am, but because he thought I would be a convenient tool to use. Were all those words about wanting to take care of my mother, wanting to become a family of 3, all lies? Of course, you had plenty of savings, don't you? I was planning to use that to build a 2-family house. I wanted to make you work like a slave and live happily with my mother, but now it's all ruined. Once my husband started speaking his mind, there was no stopping him. He was not only intent on making me submit, but was also willing to drain our savings. How selfish could a person be? Seeing my disgust, my husband seemed to realize he had misspoken, and his face took on a shocked expression. No, that's not what I meant. That's it. It's over. You don't need a wife who won't spend money or act as a servant, do you? Wait a minute. I just lost my temper and blurted out something I didn't mean, as if I could believe that I simply can't marry you. Sensing my resolve, my husband was visibly shaken, pacing around aimlessly. Then he seemed to remember something. Our wedding is today. We can't possibly send the guests home now. I will apologize to our guests and return their gifts. Since your mother is the cause of our canceled engagement, you will bear the cost of the wedding. You're joking. Even if we were to break up, it's your fault for making a fuss about one little outburst from my mom, as if it was just one time. All the awful things you've said to me, they're all right here. I pulled out my smartphone from my purse. Ella, I had recorded countless unbearable words from my mother-in-law. Pressing the play button, words like poor, ugly, harsh woman came out in quick succession in her unpleasant voice. When did I record all this? Well, I'm not a fool, you know. I will be claiming damages for emotional distress. I attempted to instill discipline in my daughter-in-law. I didn't commit any wrongdoing. If you refuse to pay willingly, I'll take you to court. Please repeat the same before the judge. What are you talking about? This isn't a joke. Realizing she'd be at a disadvantage in court, my mother-in-law went pale and slumped on the spot. I'll reconsider your position at the company as well. With the final blow to my father, my husband finally broke down and fell to his knees. I'm sorry, Evelyn. Please forgive me. That's right, Evelyn. You're already married. You can't just divorce so easily. If we can overcome this obstacle, we'll make a great couple, right? My husband and my mother-in-law started pleading. I forcefully shook them off and glared at them in silence. Scum, go to hell with that. I left the dressing room and followed through with my declaration of canceling my engagement with Stephen. I filed a claim for emotional distress against my mother-in-law. The full cost of the wedding was paid by my ex-husband, and the issue was finally settled. After that, My ex-husband was ostracized at work when his colleagues found out about the wedding fiasco. Additionally, at my father's behest, he was relocated to a remote branch in Nebraska, effectively a demotion. My former mother-in-law was scorned by her relatives for tarnishing their reputation in divorce. As for my former father-in-law, she was promptly kicked out of the house. I am now focusing on my work and have no interest in getting married again. Over time, my parents have also regained their composure, and we occasionally have family dinners. I am now living a very happy life.